One there, like not your head, like yes, no, no, yes. Okay, kind of. So I'm gonna give a pretty basic explanation, but I'm happy to talk about all that afterwards. So, what is behavioral economics? As having that surname of economics basically comes from the academia as something challenging traditional economics. Traditional economics says that humans are rational. And well, there's some research saying that we are not as rational as we think we are. And you would say, Kike, we know that. We know that we are not rational. Yes, but we keep on working on campaigns, on products that are aiming more of a client that looks more like Mr. Spock. How many times have we seen those campaigns that try to push us to eat healthier, for example? And they say, well, bear in mind how many calories fries have. Do you really think people eat fries because they don't know how many calories they have? Do you think anyone really believes that fries are healthy? No. It's not about the information. It's not about the incentives. It's about the context. In the context where we decide. So, behavioral economics is a lot about science, so we're going to do something fun. Let's cut you in half, like A and B. Yeah? Okay, A, raise your hand. Good. Now, B, raise your hand. Yeah, well, we got the smart people in the audience. Great. So, B side, close your eyes. Close your eyes, the eyes open. Good. Okay, now, A, look at the screen, read what's on the screen, and make your mind. You're in B, we should be with the eyes closed. No cheating. So, eyes on the screen, read that, and decide. 1 or 2. Yeah. Okay, now A, eyes closed. Now everybody, eyes closed. I cannot see anyone's eyes. Okay? Close, close, close. A, close your eyes. Okay, now B, you can open your eyes. Look at the screen. Make your mind. Here should be meters as well. Sorry for that. It's meters, meters. We're always talking about meters. So read that and decide. No cheating. I'm seeing some eyes open. Eyes closed. Okay, now everybody open your eyes. I'm gonna give you like 10 seconds to make your mind a guess. How tall is the tallest coast redwood in California? In meters, no decimals, it's okay. So think about it. If you have like a piece of paper, write it down. I don't want you cheating. And if you don't have a piece of paper, just think about the number. Like, I don't know, like, put it in your mind and think again about it. Yeah, everybody? You have a guess? Good guess? Yeah? Okay, more or less. Okay, raise your hand if you think the tallest redwood in California is more than 300 meters. Okay. More than 250? The ones of 300 as well. 300 is more than 250. So, okay. More than 200. Again, more than 150? More than 100? Yeah, okay, more. Yeah, good. What happened here? What we see is that the average guess in this side is way higher than in this side. And I did something really simple. I just show you 2 slides. The first one is, do you think it's more or less than 50 meters? And the other one, do you think it's more or less than 300 meters? You could say, well, this is fun, I can do it with my friends, but is it of any use? It is, because that means that our brain uses some random information to make decisions, to make judgments. So when I ask you, how much do you want to save per month for your pension fund, for your pension plan? Do you really think you have a number in mind? No, I can condition it. Depending on the anchor that I use, is an anchor, it's gonna nudge you towards more or less. Actually, this can be replicated with pricing. People is asked to write down the two last digits of their social security number. Then they are asked about how much they are willing to pay for different products. Guess what? People with higher social security numbers give higher prices, will be more willing to pay, or they will be willing to pay more money for the same products. So this is not rational, and we should bring that into the conversation that we have within companies. So I'm going to do a really quick summary on what is behavioral economics, because I want to explain some of the things that we do in the bank. If you're really interested in it, Google it, but I'm going to give you the basic. So there's like two sides. The first part is biases and mental shortcuts. So this is Daniel Kahneman, Nobel Prize 2002 in economy. He's a psychologist, so economists should be ashamed. I'm an economist. And he's basically saying, well, you economists think that people are rational. They're like machines. They know what they want, and they are actually making the right option. So they are deciding to take action, to behave in a way that's in their best interest. What we see is not like that. So there are two elements. The first one, biases. People is biased. And what is a bias? Well, I like to differentiate bias from an error, because imagine I have a target at the end of the room, and I'm like throwing darts. And sometimes it goes high, sometimes it's too low, the right, to the left, but never hitting the bullseye. What's that? Anyone? I'm really bad at throwing darts. That's why. So I'm miscalibrated. Okay, let's think about a second scenario. I have the same target, I'm like throwing darts. I never hit the bullseye, but I'm always going down right. Is that an error? No, that's a bias. And that has a huge implication, is that you, from the outside, you can predict it. It's what we see with savings, for example. Do we see people saving a lot? Most of people saving more or less, and people saving too little? No, most of the people is saving less than they should. And not only that, is that they know, because we make some research, we do surveys, and we realize that 60% of people in countries like the US regret not having saved more when they were younger. So it's when you go out at night, you drink more than you should. The next day, you don't feel that well, and you say, I will never drink again. What's going to happen next weekend? The same. So we don't really learn from those kind of things. So we should bear in mind those elements. We are biased. And then as well, we use heuristics. We don't bear in mind all the information that is available. In the economic framework, say, get information and decide. Well, guess what? We don't get all the information. If you work in marketing and you work with packaging, you would realize that changing packaging can change the perception of certain products. Before being in the bank, I was in consulting, and we did some experiments with chocolates and food products, and changing the packaging made people think that the chocolate tastes stronger when the packaging was black, for example. And then you said, because you said, okay, try this, it's the same chocolate, blah, blah, and then you said, okay, I cannot lie to these people, I'm going to tell them. It's the same chocolate in the 3 different packagings. And then they were saying, I don't believe you now. This cannot be the same chocolate. It is. It's how our brains work. So we have this idea that we are biased and we are limited in terms of cognitive capacities. But on the other side, we have Richard Thaler, Nobel Prize in Economics, 2017, saying, yes, all that's true, but we can do things in that respect. We can do two things, really. Nudging, basically using a bias. So Thaler worked a lot with pensions. So what did he say? Well, one of the biases that we find more often is that we are present biased. What does that mean? That we like to postpone sacrifice and bring benefits to the present. It's like, if I have to do something that's something that I don't like, I would do that tomorrow. Like saving, going to the gym, eating, I don't know, lettuce or salad for lunch. So we tend to do that. So Thaler said, that's one of the problems that we have with pensions. Let's do something. Let's get people to sign today for the pension plan, but they won't start contributing today. They will start with the next salary raise. So you are doing two things. You're moving the sacrifice and the pain of paying to the future, and actually you're making something that could be a loss. So if I'm earning today 1,000 and I'm saving 100, I have a loss of 100. But if I was earning 1,000 and I have a salary increase on 100, 1,100, and I'm saving 100, I don't have a loss. I don't feel that loss. And something that in behavioral economics we are really keen on working on how loss averse we are. There's another technique called debiasing. It's less effective, but we have to think about it from time to time. If the nudging means we acknowledge the bias and we behave or we work in the context that way, debiasing means let's try to get rid of that bias. How can we do that? For example, with something called the Pre-Mortem Analysis. We tend to be overconfident as humans, too optimistic. And we like to think, how do you see yourself? How do you see your company in 3 years? And we fantasize a lot. I'm going to be the leader in my category. I'm going to be the best company in digital services, things like that. And that's good. Okay, great. But the second question is, imagine in 3 years, you've not achieved your goals. Why? And suddenly, barriers that you have ignored before start arising. It's called pre-mortem analysis because some doctors do that before getting into really difficult surgery. It's like, okay, let's imagine that we do the surgery and the patient dies. What has happened? Okay, there was like some problems with heart functioning that we had not in mind. We didn't test for some specific reactions to anesthesia, whatever. Okay, so there are some techniques to debias. So with all this, we have what we call choice architecture or architecture choice, meaning that if we are able to change contexts, we are able as well to influence decisions. And this is really important because you may think, well, we should let people decide. Not working on the context doesn't make this context better. Having a neutral context means just lead people to make really bad decisions. So what do we do at BBVA? In terms of biases and heuristics, you're going to find a lot. There are more than 250 or something like that because of the academia is producing and producing and producing. So we decided to work in a framework to make this a little more understandable. So we said there are 3 elements that kind of makes us think that people are not as rational as we think. They have a bounded rationality. So it's preference, beliefs, and shortcuts. First of all, preferences, they are not stable nor clear. We tend to think that people know what they want, but sometimes they don't. And they are making preferences on the go. When you go to the supermarket, do you really know what kind of pasta you're going to have? Sometimes you do. Sometimes you don't. You make the decisions there. So the context has a great impact. I'm putting this photo here because how many times, I guess you don't, but some people go on a diet and sometimes you happen to be in a bakery store. And you're in a diet and you see that croissant and it smells really good. So what do you want? To eat the croissant or not to eat the croissant? Eat the croissant. No, you actually prefer the both things. You have 2 goals. Superordinary goal, subordinary goal. In the long term, you don't want to eat it because you know it's bad for your plan. But right now, you want to eat it. So preferences are not clear. But even more, we know if you cannot see the croissant, you cannot smell the croissant, even you know it's there, you're less prone to eat it. That's not rational. How do we understand those preferences and make sense of the context of decision? Secondly, imagine you're superhumans and your preferences are super clear. Even that, we will find ourselves making mistakes because we are wrong about how we make judgments. We think we are really good at deciding what's best for ourselves, and we don't. We tend to be overconfident. We tend to be too optimistic. And that's good, I guess. Charlotte, that's a professor, American professor, says that although We all know that in the Western world, the divorce rates it's almost 50%. When you ask a couple that just got married the probability of getting divorced, what do they say? None, zero. That's wrong. I mean, I wouldn't marry someone who thinks that their divorce probability is like tossing a coin, but that's wrong. Your probability is 50% or 40%, and that it's funny if you talk about marriage or not, I guess. But what about insurance? What about the chances that you have to, I don't know, have cancer, get robbed, have an issue with, I don't know, whatever, your family? So we are wrong about how we make judgments of the reality of the probability. So we need to help our clients to overcome overconfidence bias, optimism bias, and so on. And finally, imagine you are super humans. So you know your preferences, you know your beliefs. Even in those situations, your brain is not like a computer. You cannot process all the information. You're going to use shortcuts to make the decisions. The elements, the decisions per se, they have signals. So let me give you an example. This experiment in a supermarket, they put like either 6 jams or 24 jams. When they put 6 jams, there's less people getting close. It seems like less interesting. Not much less, but a little less, like from 60 to 40% of the people passing by. But what happened with sales? When we have 24 different jams, there's 10 times less probability of selling the jams. So if you use 6 jams framework instead of 24, you will sell 10 times more. And that makes a lot of sense because you go there, you say, okay, I want the strawberry jam. Well, no, have always strawberry jam. Let's try something different, like raspberry. Well, if I want to go crazy, raspberry is not the craziest thing in the world. What about mango? Mango, and what about this one? Mango and pear. So you start going around, at one point, you reach your point of cognitive fatigue. You cannot process more trade-offs. So you say, I will come tomorrow. So you are postponing that decision, and that's bad for the sale because probably that sale will never happen. Okay? So these 3 elements help us understand and review communications, products, website design. Actually, what we are working, it's in this framework in which we use the client cognitive biases and our own biases because we are human as well in the company. So we have projects like financial health here. So how can we help our clients to make better financial decisions? Because they are limited cognitively. They're going to make wrong decisions. We need to help them. As well, we have some problem with security. We're working with phishing because phishing is not a technological problem. It is somehow a technological problem, but basically it's a psychological problem. People is being deceived. So how can we help people to make sense of those emails that they're getting that they are false? And actually, the bad guys, they know a lot about behavioral economics because they use really powerful mechanisms in those emails. Then we start working with the customer relationship and experience, digital journeys, how we make things easier, like with the jam experiments. If we start throwing products in the websites, like you have like 50 different credit cards to compare, people are gonna go nuts. They don't know. Or you ask people, okay, you wanna get this insurance? How much you want to pay per month? Or how much, what's the quantity you want to insure? Regular people, they're gonna be like, what? I don't know. And we find that many times. So after that, we start touching more on the biases of our own people. So segmentation, communication, selling techniques, employee relationships. We are working with the HR teams on diversity and inclusion because there are some unconscious biases on promotions, on how we deal with recruitment. And we are having like great results promoting and recruiting more female candidates, just changing context elements. And finally, the people making the strategy, the management of the whole company, they are biased as well, and they're making really important decisions. So we are working with them in what we call behavioral economics in the boardroom. So are they overconfident? Can we do pre-mortem with them? Can we work in red teaming, meaning at least today, one of you is going to be criticizing everything that comes around, so we don't just accept what it comes. And finally, for example, avoiding group thinking. What happens when there's a team of people deciding? The first one talking is the boss, so he says something or she says something. The second one, the person closest to the boss. So when you're the fourth one, even if you don't agree with your boss, you're going to say, yeah, whatever, I will just follow. No? So all those elements are really important on how can we improve decision making within the company, looking at our employees and looking at our customers. And time's up, and that was me. Thank you very much for your time.